Digital 410 Media proudly presents the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast with your hosts, Don Abernathy, Jeff Copsetta, and Dennis Blocker.
Welcome, everybody, to a unscheduled episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast, but a very important episode. This is a memorial episode, if you will, for the TikTok star, World War II veteran known as Papa Jake Larson. Jake Larson, a beloved World War II veteran and social media star known as Papa Jake, who captivated millions with his story, has died. He was 102 years old. Papa Jake died peacefully and was even cracking jokes till the very end, his granddaughter, Michaela Larson, wrote on TikTok. I am so thankful to have shared Papa Jake with all of you. You meant the world to him, she continued. When the time is right, I will continue to share Papa Jake's stories and keep his memory alive. We appreciate all the kind words and posts. As Papa would say, love you all the mostest. And so I wanted to share with you our interviews with Papa Jake. I got on the TikTok back in 2020, learned of Papa Jake almost instantly, obviously because my algorithm. I reached out to his granddaughter, asked if I could schedule an interview. She said sure, and we made it happen. To be honest, I didn't know what to think when I went into this, because sometimes content is all about the editing. And with Papa Jake, it was not about the editing. Papa Jake was charismatic, funny, sharp as a tack, entertaining as hell. And he's one of those guests that you want, one of those guests you love. He's the type of guest you pull the string, you let it go, you sit back, and you let him talk. He would go, he would talk for hours. Each of our interviews were probably 2 hours in length before editing. He had so much content. He's probably up there with Jared Frederick as the most returned. He's probably tied, or maybe one episode behind Dr. Jared Frederick as far as the most returns to the podcast for a guest. Papa Jake was on the show 3 times. My first interview with him was July 12th, 2020. The second interview was on September 6th of 2020. And then our follow-up interview, our last interview, was with him on November 2nd. And our follow-up interview was with him on November 4th of 2020. I've taken all 3 of those episodes, trimmed them out, and made one nice long episode in remembrance of Papa Jake Larson.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing, Mr. Larson?
The name is Jake. Don't give me that Mr. Larson. That was my dad's name. And He passed away when he was 85.
How are things going with you, Jake? How are things in beautiful California today?
It is great. It is great.
Yeah, I missed the weather down there. We've been getting a lot of rain here in Florida because of the hurricanes that recently swept through and hit Texas. So we've been getting a lot of rain, and there is concern that we may be getting a tropical storm this weekend. So hopefully that won't happen because, well, I don't like my stuff getting blown away.
I'm glad I'm living in California. We used to go through that when I lived in Minnesota. We'd have tornadoes, and we didn't even call them tornadoes at the time. We called them cyclones.
Cyclones, yep. You know, it's interesting you bring up the phrase cyclones because I was watching the Weather Channel this weekend because of the concerns of hurricanes and tropical storms, and they started using the word cyclone, which I hadn't heard anybody use in the longest time. So I thought that was interesting to hear that they didn't want to quite call them hurricanes, and so they were talking about the perspective of cyclones coming through.
Yes. Yeah. It's strange, isn't it?
Absolutely. I appreciate your time once again. You know, the last episode you were on, our listeners thoroughly enjoyed it. Our download numbers were through the roof. We got a lot of new listeners to the program. So first and foremost, let me thank your fans over at TikTok. And for you guys who don't know, this is Papa Jake. I found him on TikTok, and you can find him on TikTok at Story Times with Papa Jake. They're great little 1-minute videos where he goes over some of his World War II history, and that's kind of how I found him. And I figured with the limitations of TikTok and 1-minute videos, why not bring to people a long-form interview? And so this is part 2. The last time we left off, we briefly got into her Bastogne saga, but we pretty much left off at San Lo, so I think we should pick up there. So you made it through D-Day, you made it through the landings, you made it through San Lo. Best of your recollection, where do we pick up from there?
Ballet Gap.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you the rest of Sandlow.
No, we can start
when
there.
When it came to the end of Sandlow, and we were being shelled all day, and I don't work during the day. See, I'm a freelance guy. I operate G3 from 7:30 at night till 7:30 in the morning.
That's correct. I remember last episode you were telling us that you had just been given that shift. You said, "Hey, you're told go grab a nap and come back because you're working a 13-hour shift."
Yeah, that's the way it goes. But anyway, after we had just captured Sandlow, and the Germans were pretty determined. They kept firing artillery in there, and 7:30, man, I'm relieved, and I go have something to eat, and I head for a ditch, just a country road ditch. There's a bank on the side of that ditch that I peg in my shelter half and pin it down at the bottom and crawl in there and fall asleep. Unbeknownst to me, those Germans firing those 155 millimeter cannon over me. One of the shells just made it over me and landed on the road, and it was a dud. Thank you guys from Czechoslovakia who was forced to make the shells.
Yeah, I guess if there's one benefit to slave labor and conscripted labor, it's that they're not exactly motivated to make sure the products work. So we got a lot of lives saved due to sabotage by the forced laborers over in Germany.
So they got the bomb disposal squad out there, and they were sandbagging that thing and going to blow it up. And it was just about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I woke up. See, I could sleep through anything. Pounding, people were talking about, if you did not put your hand on me, I would not wake up. So I woke up, and these guys were walking around up there on that road, and so I took the lining out of my helmet and put in some water there and brushed my teeth and dumped that water out and was going to put in a little more and shave. And somebody up on the road said, "What the hell are you doing down there?" I says, "I just brushed my teeth." I says, "I thought I'd shave now." "God," he says, "I thought we cleared this place." He says, we got a 155 millimeter shell that came right over you and landed on the road, and we're sandbagging it. We're going to blow it up."
That would have been a heck of a wake-up call.
My life has been, everything that happened has been close, but close only counts in hand grenades and horseshoe.
Yep.
So I had to get this story in because my life is still that way. At 97 years old, I don't have an ache or a pain in my body. No arthritis, no thing. I do have 11 stents in me, which is a pretty unusual thing.
Yeah.
You won't find that almost. It's probably what's given me good circulation.
Oh, absolutely. Your valves are nice and wide open. Now, On a previous interview, you were talking about a lot of times throughout the war when you found yourself in a near-death experience, you felt that the young man who sadly lost his life to a bullet on the beach, when you asked him for a cigarette, you felt that a lot of times he was looking out for you. Do you think maybe he was looking out for you that morning too?
I I think I had help from above from everyone. It is my life was too chancy without help from someone, and it certainly wasn't me.
Sure.
I was just an ordinary soldier, but things just kept happening to my benefit.
Yeah. Did you find as the war went on that you kind of, when you actually had time to sit down and process things, obviously when things are going on, you're just going through the motions, you're doing your training, you're doing your job. But did you find yourself when things got a little quiet or you had a little R&R, as seldom as that was, that you started to get a little bit of survivor's guilt?
No, I never felt like that. I thought we and everybody that I was working with, we were determined. We had this determination. We were not going to back down for the Germans, and we were going to clean them out of France. And we did. We did. We actually, in plain terms, we kicked their ass.
Absolutely.
And I don't like to say nasty words over it, but I can't explain it any better.
Not a problem.
We just did that. So
you just got yelled at. They're getting ready to blow up that that round that didn't go off. They sandbagged it. I'm sure you quickly gathered up your belongings and got out of
there. Yes. I went and found something to eat, and there was always something open for the mess for the guys that worked at night. We had our lunch at night in the middle of the night at 12 o'clock. We'd have our dinner. So life was strictly different for me than ordinary soldiers. And I took advantage of that.
Well, absolutely.
Like when we went to Paris, I walked around during the day and checked things out. And I went to the Louvre. I was colorblind then. I was born colorblind. And I did not appreciate the Louvre.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys that could look at a painting and say, man, I could have done better than that, you know.
I feel the same way about tattoos. That's why I don't have any. I'm like, why do I want to spend that kind of money for that kind of work?
Yeah, why buy something like that, or why save something like that, man? Some child I know does better work than that with the crayons.
Well,
Yeah.
we know that the Germans were in possession of France for a good period of time. We've all seen the pictures of Hitler in front of the Eiffel Tower and going around to all the monuments. What sort of condition did they leave Paris in when they hightailed it out of there?
Yeah, you wouldn't know that they were there.
Really, they're that respectful to the city and to the arts.
Yeah. The only way you knew that they weren't there is that people suddenly become free, and they were jolly, and they were hugging you and kissing you. Hey, thanks for the liberation. That's the Germans. They did not sack Paris. They made it a free city. And while they made it a free city, the French, free French, came in there with cars and machine guns and everything, and throwing these Molotov cocktails at the Germans were clearing out.
Sure.
And they threw these Molotov cocktails into those trucks, and flames had come out, and those Germans had come out of there loaded with gasoline and stuff on them and burning. It was a kind of an uneven fighting, but I did not go through what those Free French people did. So I'm my opinion now that they shouldn't have done that. But who knows how they were treated for 4 years? If they were caught, they were shot.
Yeah.
There was no pleading, not guilty or so. They shot them. And not only did they shoot them, they probably shot their family too.
Or worse, especially if they're of the female persuasion, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I stayed at the Normandy Hotel, and that was the first shower I had since D-Day.
I know it was a long time ago, and it's kind of hard to recall, super in-depth memories, but what was it like to experience someone else getting their freedom back fully? Because here in America, we don't take for, we kind of take for granted the freedoms in which we have. I mean, we're seeing it on TV right now with all the craziness going on. But you're someone who actually witnessed, not only did you witness, but you participated in the reclaiming of a country's freedom and have that handed back to the people. What is it like to actually watch somebody when they've been living and like you said, the Germans were, I don't want to use the word term nice, but they were less harsh on the people of Paris than they were in other places. They didn't completely destroy the town, but they were still under. They
had to toe the line.
Yes.
And obey. Three people don't like to obey. They don't like to scrape and bow to someone. They were joyous. I couldn't. They didn't speak English, but they demonstrated English because hugs and kisses. It doesn't matter who they're from. The language doesn't count. It's the way you give them. The appreciation they showed. It's an unbelievable thing to go through, but we were happy. Yeah, we were happy to be there.
And I don't think a lot of people realize how, my grandfather was over there in the war. He did grave registration in Europe. So obviously I'm one generation removed with my parents. But I don't think people realize how beneficial of obviously freeing countries from tyranny is beneficial. But just for the sake of what I'm getting to, you being an American, seeing people who have had their freedoms taken away, seeing people who've been going through terrible things, and then you witness
4 years.
For 4 years. And then you and your entire generation witness that, and it's burned into your brain of how valuable and how delicate freedom is. And then you guys bring that back here to the States, and you remind your children of that, and your children remind their grandchildren of their children, and your grandchildren of that. And I think the world itself has benefited greatly from that sharing of that experience, the reminder of that experience. But I'm almost wondering if we're getting just far enough removed now that on a worldwide scale, the current generations, they don't realize what happened back then and how delicate and how much of a gift true, honest-to-God freedom is. And I wonder if that's why we're starting to see some of the people doing these resentful things that they're doing now.
Don, I'm truly amazed with these little talks, like right now, and the ones I have with my granddaughter, and you. the results stagger me. I got tears thinking about it.
Yeah.
I've got over 1 million followers that have looked at my stuff. I don't think I even deserve that. It's those people that are buried over there. They made it possible for me to be here.
Yes, but you carry a very valuable role. It's your, I don't want to say job or duty, but it's the task that you have taken on yourself is to share their stories, because obviously they can't. And obviously I'm a living historian. I'm a World War II reenactor, and a lot of the people who listen to this podcast are. And what we try to do is talk to gentlemen like you and your colleagues and people of your generation so that we can learn as much as we can, so we can take that task on and share your story when you're not able to. And as an example, today's Wednesday. Tomorrow night, I'm actually driving 2.5 hours going up to an airport in Zephyr Hills to participate in the filming of a documentary where they're filming the B-roll, if you will, so that when they're talking to a vet, they cut to the action scenes. And I'm actually going up there in my 101st Airborne impression. This company's rented out a hangar. They got a C-47. And so me and my friends are going up there. We're going to play the roles of the men of your generation of the 101st Airborne, so that when this program hits TV or the film circuit, wherever it's going, we can do our part in taking the information that we've gotten from your generation and keeping that message and that story alive. And that's one of the things that's most important to me with this podcast, is to interview vets like yourself and your brethren and get that message out there and have a permanent available source for people to hear at any time they want. And then we can also learn from your all's message and carry that on so that we can continue to try to carry on the message of peace and what came from the war. As reenactors, some people think we're trying to glorify war. We're not. We're trying to remind people of the gifts that came from it, why it had to happen, why it was so necessary, and why it's so important to remember the horrible details so that we can appreciate the package, the gift that came from it in the form of somewhat worldwide peace, with the exception of the communist countries.
Well, I'm staggered with the response I've got. I'm a little farm boy from Hope, Minnesota, and I tell people I think I put Hope on the map.
Yeah.
And I have friends who said, "My God, Jake, you're giving all that information. How much are they paying you?" I said, "I'm not in it for money." I said, "We're doing this to honor those that gave their life for me to be here. Those cemeteries are full over there. We left thousands and thousands of soldiers. And I lived that."
Yeah.
At the 75th anniversary of D-Day, I was down there on Omaha Beach Cemetery. And to tell you the truth, that's the first time I was in a military cemetery. I came in on Omaha Beach with part of the 1st Division. We had the 1st and 29th Division. And Operations Sergeant, I had to come in with them. When I had 5 reporters with their television cameras following me, and they said, "Walk out amongst the graves and start reading one of the inscriptions." I walked out, and the first inscription I read was a private from the 1st Division. I don't know if I did the proper thing, but I backed up and raised my hat in salute to him. that has gone viral. That picture of me. I didn't. I still to this day don't know if that's a proper way of acknowledging all those guys that gave their life. Over 9,000 on Omaha Beach alone. And then there's 60,000 that gave their life at the Battle of the Bulge. And not only 60,000 gave their life, they said a little a postscript after the 60,000 gave their life. 10,000 missing. How is that possible? How I'm astounded.
Yeah. It's, trying to, well, one, I guess a little bit back then, the logistics was, you're trying to keep track of all these men and these numbers on both sides. And then you have, in the case of Bastogne and Battle of the Bulge, the artillery fire was so intense, or at least I've been led to believe through reading and watching shows, that a lot of the guys were just hit with more, artillery fire on both sides, and there's just nothing left of them to claim. And then obviously you have those 10,000. Yeah.
The Germans captured a lot when they first came in on December 16th. They came in that morning, and that's an experience.
Yeah,
I'm wide awake because I was working nights. See. And it kind of gave itself away at 2:00 in the morning. That's when a corporal guard, MP corporal guard on post number 6 came in, and he was so excited. He saluted me. I'm a staff sergeant, and you don't salute non-commissioned officers. And he was so excited, he saluted me. And he looking right at me, he knew I was a sergeant because he said, "Sergeant, I'm from post number 6. I was walking my post, and I looked up, and there were German parachuters coming down. I says, "What did you do?" He says, "I ran and jumped in my Jeep and came up here to tell you." I says, "Good shot." So that was the start of the Battle of the Bulge. And to think I was in on it.
Yeah. How, obviously, you guys had limited people, because the whole thing was, for lack of a better phrase, an ambush on a huge scale. You guys, no one was thinking they were going to push through the Ardennes forest in the middle of wintertime. And so you had a limited amount of troops to put up on what now has become the front line. And then we've all heard the stories where you got to, the MPs went out and started pulling people out of R&R and off of leave and all that. And due to the rapid influx of men into the area, there was lack of supplies, lack of ammo, lack of winter gear. But roughly, in your recollection, how many hours or days did it take to get enough guys to create what you guys felt was a substantial front line to secure the area?
Well, we didn't. We were cut off. We were cut off from First Army. We were up at Eupen, which would be northeast corner, and we had control of Malmedy and all that there. But the Germans came right in our control and cut us off from those towns down there. Now, I think I talked about the Malmedy massacre before.
Yes,
and this is unbelievable. We were cut off from First Army. We're a corps under First Army. So, if in order to get orders and everything, we were assigned to Field Marshal Montgomery's 21st Army Group. We were 12th Army Group under Bradley. And we went to Field Marshal Montgomery's, and I saw him. He came there and picked up cigarettes and stuff for his troop. He didn't smoke himself, but he liked to be in command, so he was the one that's going to give out cigarettes if he was going to be cigarettes given out.
Absolutely. No better way to earn respect than some quality cigarettes and maybe a candy bar here and there if you can find it.
But people will be listening to this now, and they say, "What did you do in the British service?" We were part of the offensive when the Third Army, Patton's Third Army, came up from that side. We put the squeeze on them from the north, and that forced them back. That was the end of them right there. They just dropped their weapons and walked out. Left everything there, the tanks, the guns, the rifles, ammunition, and walked out.
Now, let me ask you this and back up a little bit, because obviously one of the things the Battle of the Bulge and Bastogne is known for is the extreme cold. And we all know that it gets colder at night than it does in day, and you grew up in Minnesota, so, you know, you're kind of tempered in cold steel, if you will. Do you think, looking back at it, do you kind of see it as an advantage that you worked nights so that you could try to sleep in the day when it's just a smidge, a little bit warmer due to the sun?
I think my life is planned from above, Don.
Sure.
I'm mystified with it. I really am. It's hard for me to believe that there's no one else I was in the service with still alive except me. How is that possible? In less than 5 months, I'm going to be 98 years old.
Well, I'm going to wish you a happy birthday now.
My mind is fairly stable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my body is stable. I've got a little infection in one of my teeth that I'm going to have taken care of. I got an appointment now with the dentist. But other than that, I don't know what aches or pains are. And me with 11 stents in me, had a terrific stroke 20-some years ago, 27 probably. But
how are you guys?
I'm blessed.
How are you guys dealing with, you know, interaction with your family members and all that with the COVID going on out there in California?
Well, I'm in a particular, there again, I'm the luckiest man in the world. I live with my 2 sons and their offspring. And now their offspring is out, got homes of their own. See, I'm not only a grandpa 9 times, I'm a great-grandpa 11 times, and one of my grandchildren gave birth a year ago to a girl, and is pregnant again. So I don't know how to say it anymore. Great.
Grandpa to the 10th power.
But it always comes time. I'm a grandpa, so I'm known as Papa Jake. Even my own son calls me Papa Jake.
That's beautiful.
So it's easy for all I don't have to worry if I'm that one's great or just a great. They're all my family.
Have you ever really sat around and took a moment to realize how much history you have witnessed in your life? Obviously, World War II, television.
I've got a book coming out, Don.
Do you?
Yeah, but these stories that I'm telling you will be in that book.
Is there a working title for the book?
Yes, I've got a title for the book. The luckiest man in the world, Jake Larson.
Because I'm sitting here thinking, obviously, World War II, television, advent, Vietnam, Korean War, color TV, computers, internet.
I have none of that.
Well, I'm just saying you've witnessed it throughout your life.
Oh, yeah. I used to be a television repairman.
Television repairman, the first African-American president, and now COVID-19.
Yep.
Just the amount, the wide span of history that you've witnessed and participated in, it's just it's got to be a little mind-boggling sometimes, isn't it?
I think Harrison was the president when I was born. But I remember Herbert Hoover, and he got in for a chicken in every pot,
mm-hmm.
and then Roosevelt got in there, and you couldn't pry him out with a crowbar. He got in for 4 terms, which is very unusual that I lived through that. And President Roosevelt, when I turned 21 while I was overseas during the war, I got a chance to vote, and I voted for President Roosevelt for his 4th term. You won't find many people that have done that.
Isn't that the truth?
And I voted over from overseas.
Yeah, talking about a mail-in ballot. That's a V-mail ballot.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing.
You know, a while back, when we were suffering through the recession and unemployment was through the roof, some people suggested maybe that we take a chapter from the good days, from the 40s and the 30s, and bring back the Civilian Conservation Corps to help, one, do the jobs at the Civilian Concentration, I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied. Anyhow, do what they did back then. Yes, and, building roads and all the infrastructure stuff, and not only provide work.
Well, that was the roads were built by the WPA. That was called WPA, Works Project Administration. I lived through all those.
Yeah.
Those CCC camps. I had an older brother that was 12 years older than me. He went to that. They paid Army wages, $30 a month.
Well, that's
the work that they did, you couldn't hire that work done for 3 times that much.
Yeah.
So that was a bonanza.
Well, not only did it provide employment, but at the time it provided much needed food and housing. But not only that, but since it was ran kind of loosely by a branch of the military, it provided a lot of structure and work ethics to people who needed it.
Grew up in WPA, they became good soldiers too.
Absolutely. And so I don't know if it would work on today's scale. I mean, yes, providing the jobs and doing that type of work may work now, but definitely not the input and the military style structure. That wouldn't fly nowadays. But it would be a good source to help get some people who have lost their jobs with what's going on to get back to work.
Well, people don't realize what money was compared to now.
Sure.
Think of it. I was born in 1922. When I started to go into town, 5, 6 years old, with a younger brother alongside of me, and we like to go to the 5 and 10 cent store and just look at stuff. And we'd ask my dad for some money so we could go to the 5 and dime store. I am not making this up, so help me God. He gave us each a penny. And he says, don't spend it all in one place now.
Yep.
And we trottled off to the 5 and dime. And we looked at everything. Everything. Rubber bands were 5 cents for a big package of those rubber bands. Those rubber bands, we were making slingshots at home, and we tried to cut inner tubes into rubber bands so we could make. You cannot cut an inner tube straight with a scissors.
Nope.
So here those rubber bands were 5 cents. I put a pack of those in my pocket.
Uh-oh.
And when I got home with those rubber bands, we got the slingshots out on the table and putting those rubber bands on. My mother came along and says, where did you get the rubber bands? Oh, we got them at the dime store. How much did they cost? Wow, wait a minute. We had 2 cents. I said, well, I didn't pay for them. Nobody was looking, so I put them in my pocket. She says, put them up on the buffet, and next week when we go in, you are going to carry those back in and tell them you stole them. Worst year of my life, worst week of my life.
Waiting, the anticipation.
And they had a runner. It seemed like 10 miles long to the cash register where the manager was. And I felt like crawling under that baby and getting up there. What a lesson. What a lesson. I had a pretty wise mother.
Not only is that a wise lesson, that's kind of a great snapshot in comparison. I think as years gone by, nowadays, a mother would say, hey, you don't take things that don't belong to you, but I don't know how many of them would go through the effort of driving back to the store to return a dollar item or something. They may, chastise their child.
5 cent item. 5 cents.
Yeah, I was adjusting for inflation because there's nothing anybody could buy for 5 cents now. But my point being is the lesson that you learned, because once again you had to wait a week, so the anticipation, not knowing what the store manager was going to say to you, not knowing what your parents were going to say to you, so that little thing of your mom making you return that item has probably served you so well throughout your life, because it's one of the most important values and lessons in life is you don't take things that don't belong to you. And if you don't have the money to get it, don't steal it. Go out and earn the money and then go buy it. And by the way, and it's funny when you brought this up, because I was thinking I have another podcast. It's a general entertainment podcast. But my brother and I were talking about how when we were kids, when we didn't have money for things, we would window shop, which I don't think kids do that nowadays. And we would go, for example, we were heavily into skateboarding at the time, and they were quite expensive, and we didn't have the money. So we'd go to the skateboard shop, and we would study every component that made up that skateboard and all the different brands and the different prices. And we would build a catalog in our head. Okay, when I have the money, I need to save up this money. And we would learn everything about that particular item so that when we actually had the money, we would go to the store. And it became so important to us. And so instead of just going out and buying it and leaving and playing with it for an hour, when you spend months planning, learning, educating yourself, saving up the money, when you finally got that item, it meant so much more to you that you utilized it for a longer period of time. And something like skateboarding or surfing or biking or scuba diving, it becomes a lifestyle and not something you just tried for 10 minutes and walked away from.
Don, I never knew what toys were.
Yeah.
Never owned a bike. We asked for a bike, and my dad said, "Bicycle? They cost $5. I can buy a car for that.
Yeah.
You can buy a Model T car with good tires at that time for $5. I'm not joking, because my brother did.
Yeah.
My brother Leo bought it."
And you kind of hit on another good point. Not only has you got to pay the $5 for the bike, but in 4 months, or if you run over a nail, you got upkeep. Now you got to spend money on tires.
Tires or tubes or whatever. Yeah. Well, I never had the luxury of owning a bike, and I paid for quite a few of them with my kids. But I can ride a bike, but I am not comfortable on a bike.
Sure.
There's a difference in riding a bike and comfortable. I don't feel safe on a bike. And some of these kids jump. Oh, man. My stomach goes right out when I see that happen.
Isn't it funny how things work? Here's a man who landed on D-Day, was there through the Battle of the Bulge, but the thought of riding a bike through traffic makes you woozy.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Where did the war end for you? Were you there through the duration? Did you get to go home? Did you get points?
The war ended at the Battle of the Bulge for me. Before, when the Battle of the Bulge was ending there, December 31st, General Dro authorized 45 days leave to all those that had enough points. Well, I pushed everybody else. I had 127 points, where other guys had barely 100. Because the point system, that's the way it was. How long you were in the service, how long you were overseas, and that's how that was all figured. I don't ask me to do it now, because I can't. But I do know I had 127 points, and I was one of the first one chosen to go back home. I was the only one out of G3. And
did they send you back? Did they send you back through England first, or did you leave straight from France?
I left from France. They sent me to Le Havre, France. And this is an interesting story all in its own. Your next interview should be on that, because that is one of the most interesting stories.
Something happened on that ride home?
Yes. Well, it happened before we even went home. That was Le Havre was a German submarine place.
Okay, I see where you're going with that.
So
we'll leave the audience wanting more.
They had these Quonset homes there. I came in there 11 o'clock at night. This is just a preview of what you're going to hear.
Sure.
I came in at 11 o'clock at night, and they said, "You're in bed number 1. You're right there, right inside. There's a light switch inside the door." So I came inside that door with my pack and stuff, and I'm ready to go home, Drop that stuff down, and go to my bed, rip back the covers, get undressed down to my underwear, crawl on my bed, shut that light off, and the next, just about dozed off, and it felt like something was jumping on my chest, a little ticky thing jumping on my chest. I got up, turned the light on, and I was loaded with fleas.
Oh, no.
And then those guys were hollering, "Shut the goddamn light up! What the hell did you do?" I said, I was putting my clothes on. They said, "Where are you going?" I said, I want to find the supply sergeant and get some flea powder. "Oh, he won't get up at this time of the night." I said, "He'll get up all right." And now we're going to leave off there because there's no stopping me now, see. But we'll leave off till the next time. And I told you this is kind of an interesting story, but
I'm all for it. That's what we look for here. We look for interesting stories and continuing to tell your tale. Papa Jake, thank you so much for joining us for another episode, and I will get a hold of you behind the scenes here shortly, and we'll set up your third follow-up episode. So casually take them into interview number 3, the final interview with Jake Larson, the World War II vet. We're going to get a little bit more into his combat career and then talk about what happened on his long boat ride home and what it was like to come back to the United States in 1945 after being away for 3 years. So stick around. That's coming up next. I think we got all the promotions out of the way. Just one more thing. This episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast, as well as all the other podcasts here at the Digital 410 Network, is brought to you by our friends at Computers. Computers has been providing IT solutions for all of Southwest Florida since 2004. So even if you don't live in Southwest Florida, they can help you remotely as long as you have internet, obviously. So give them a call at 239-283-1120. That's 239-283-1120. Or head over to act-capecoral.com. And not only can they log into your computer and help you with any issues you're having, they can help you out with two-form authentication. So that if you're trying to log into your work from home or you have employees logging in from home because of COVID, you want that to be done securely. Obviously, with all the work going on from home, there's more security breaches out there. So they can help you out with internet security. And most importantly, online backups. Back up that data. If your hard drive crashes or unfortunately you get encryption, all your data will be safe. So give them a call, 239-283-1120, or head over to act-capecoral.com. Jeff, as always, where can people find you?
Jeff Cupset on Facebook or at Jeff Cupset on Instagram.
Thank you so much, friend. And everybody stick around. And coming up is Jake Larson. And joining us from the phone from sunny California once again, Mr. Jake Larson. Jake, I feel like you and I are becoming good old friends at this point. This is your third interview with us. And you were just telling me before you came on that your life is crazy. You just don't get it. Are you getting requests to do a lot of interviews? As you're,
Oh, yeah. I went to trade school after I got out of the service in 1945. I went to Dunwoody in Minneapolis. I took electricity and air conditioning, motor rewinding. God, there wasn't anything I couldn't do. And
did you ever imagine you'd become a spokesperson for your generation at some point in your life? Do a lot of public speaking?
Never in my. I had to take public speaking when I was in the 10th grade. I couldn't even talk to my class.
Sure. So the last time we were together, we just wrapped up the Battle of the Bulge, and you were telling me that you had something interestingly happen to you on your long travel home, but you said it's quite an in-depth story that we should schedule a third interview, which we are obviously happy to do. So maybe we should pick up right around the time of the ending of the war for you. I guess we'll start nice and clean. Where did you get your notification that the war was over for you and it was time to go home?
There's another. Mine is so different from anybody else. I ran G3 at night, the night shift.
Mm-hmm.
On D-Day, we got to go back to D-Day.
Sure.
And the whole army was running on adrenaline at that time. We loaded on the 4th, expecting to invade Europe on the 5th. Well, that storm came in, and it was postponed till the 6th.
What does that do for morale? I mean, here you guys have been training for years. Some of these guys have been training for 3 years. You take that long boat ride across seas. You're doing more training. The orders come down. Okay, we're moving. At some point, you have to find a little quiet time. I'm sure you basically have to accept fate. Okay, here we go. Tomorrow's the big day. Like you said, you're running off adrenaline, coffee, and cigarettes. And then all of a sudden, the thing gets scrubbed. How does one rebuild morale after that? I mean, because now you got to go through it all over again. A second night of, oh boy, tomorrow's the day. What does that do to a guy?
How would you feel in front of all your buddies there? Everybody is putting on a front.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And when you put on a front, you boast everybody. So we're all in it together. There was no down. We wanted it done and over with. We wanted to get it over. We wanted to go home.
Sure.
I was overseas for 2.5 years there, you know, and we knew we had invasion in our plans, but we wanted to get it over with. The prolonging of that thing, and they kept bringing supplies from the United States. I thought England would sink from the amount of supplies they have. You cannot imagine the millions of things that came over. All kinds of guns, tanks, airplanes. I don't know how they got them all made. Trucks, loaded with trucks. It's just unbelievable supplies.
Yeah, I think the logistics officers are some of the biggest unsung heroes of the war. I mean, just the logistics alone. Let's forget the fact that you guys are going to war and all the things that are going to come. Just the idea of coming out of a Depression era, building all this new equipment, but getting it overseas via ships, via anything that floats with a motor, and just that in itself, getting it done with the least amount of confusion. I'm sure that things got misplaced and things didn't land exactly where they're supposed to, but even still, the amount of effort to go into that, and then to have the VE mail separated and that getting priority as well. Just the logistics of the war and what those logistics officers were able to do is just still to this day,
it is
mind-boggling
to people that haven't seen anything like that. And we were right in on the whole doggone thing. It's how did they ever manufacture all those gigantic planes? Those B-17s, you don't put those together, just snap your fingers.
Not at all. And, I have the privilege up in Tampa Bay, about 2 hours from me. They have the USS American Victory Liberty ship. And I've had the privilege to participate in events on that ship while it's out on Tampa Bay. And when you're standing down there on the dock in front of that thing, it blows your mind of the size of that. But then to realize that that's nothing in comparison to the other ships, and to think that you and your friends and the people of your generation are standing on one of these ships, and you look out and you're just surrounded by miles and miles and miles.
material. Yeah.
The world will never see that again in its lifetime. And it's just photos of the day just don't even give it even remotely, the gravitas of what that situation was.
Well, that is and will be the largest enterprise ever done in the world. That D-Day, 1944, January 6th, or June 6th, 1944. There will never be anything. 7,000 ships participated. 7,000.
That's insane.
And I don't know if I told you this, but I worked on the D-Day invasion for Omaha Beach. The ships that we were assigned, and each one had a different number of people. I typed every one of those guys' name, and for the work I did on that there, I got the Bronze Star.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, the young kids nowadays, typing on a computer keyboard is nothing. Well, you're talking about a spring-loaded, heavy-keyed stamping typewriter.
Yes.
And that wasn't a common skill for people back then, unless you were in the secretary pool. Do you remember what your words per minute was back then?
My what?
Your words per minute. How fast you could type?
I could type 50 words a minute, and that's about what those typewriters were good for.
Yeah.
They weren't made for speed. They were just We did a lot of stencils.
Yeah.
With those. Without a ribbon. See, cut the stencil. That's a kind of a paraffin coated thing, and you just those stencils were used on mimeograph. You probably don't remember that stuff, but all that stuff was printed with mimeograph, and so I used to cut all those stencils. And if you made a mistake, you had to
start all over.
Yeah, it's quite a thing. But I was blessed, making no mistakes. I didn't even have anybody checking my stuff. To think of it now, I don't know how we didn't do it. Just a full bird colonel and I in there working on that.
I'm sure you would have the echoes of the reverberation of those letter on the typewriter of those letterheads slapping that ribbon. That just had you're probably trying to sleep at night or during the early hours, whichever time you actually had the chance to lay your head down. You probably just had the sound of that typewriter reverberating through your head at all hours. I couldn't imagine.
Oh yeah. And then when we were in the battles, I ran one of those electric battery-operated typewriters. That's a teletypewriter.
Mm-hmm.
You're connected by landline to your divisions that was under you, or anybody that they had one just like it. And
sure.
If I started that up, it would operate theirs, so I could send messages over to them. Of course, everything was sent in code. You sent messages, 5 letters at a time. Think of it, 5 letters at a time. XDREF or something like that, and then another space and another 5 letters, and you had to type them at 45 words a minute, without slowing down or stopping.
And so not only are you typing 45 words a minute, but you're not even typing your natural English. You're typing code. I can only imagine how long the training had to take for that.
It is something you just can't just sit down and do.
Sure.
A couple of weeks to really, but I was proficient on the typewriter too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So before I diverted the conversation, you were talking about, we went back to D-Day, and we were kind of talking about how you're prepared to go on June 5th, but because of the storms, it got moved a day. And so let's pick up there.
All right. We knew we were going to go in the morning, so I was on that command ship too, and I lost the name of it right there in my mind.
Nah, no worries.
But anyway, Eisenhower was on there, Bradley, and my full bird colonel, who was G3, he was in charge of Omaha Beach for his operations, Colonel John G. Hill. So I was the operations sergeant. You don't find many operations sergeants in the service, and I happened to be one of those birds. And I had to go in with the 1st Division because I was supposed to pick out the command post. Well, all hell broke loose. We could not go at our regular time. I was supposed to go in there at 8 o'clock or something, and here we went around in circles, waiting to get the word to land. The Germans were putting up a resistance. They wouldn't let anybody get up over the cliff. So it was probably pretty close to 10 o'clock before we got the thing that we were going. And when we did get in, there was hardly anybody moving. And they had shipped in some Bangalore torpedoes, and they opened up this ravine, a trench like water came down, and that's where we were supposed to get up over that cliff. It was loaded with barbed wire and stuff, and they shoved these Bangalore torpedoes up in there and screwed them together. And two of the guys that were doing that at the time were killed right there. The Germans shot them, and God, I remember that just like yesterday. And of course, if somebody goes down, there's always somebody to do the work again. Another takes your place. That's the thing about the Army and the infantry and all that stuff. It's there's always somebody there. You're dispensable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to put it, but when you're in the service like that, you become dispensable. There's always somebody can take your place. And when they finally got those Bangalore torpedoes in there and set them off, my God, that cleared all that barbed wire out of there. That's when the Germans cleared out from the back of their armament and where they were shooting at us. They have no protection from the rear. They're wide open. So they cleared out. It's just like open season there for space.
Yeah. Well, that barbed wire is kind of their last line of defense. They didn't expect, you guys to make it that far in. You made it past the Hedgehogs. You made it past all the MG-42s, MG-39s. and then you made it up past the barbed wire. And as we all know, because Hitler sent most of his men and tanks up north because he thought Patton's army was coming up north.
Yeah, thank God for that. You see, it's little things like that you put together, and that's the reason I'm sitting here talking to you right now. Think of it. I was in infantry. I was started off in infantry. I got the headquarters company. I got transferred over in North Ireland. I got transferred into G3. How many people do you think ever get out of the infantry and into corps headquarters and then worked on that stuff? I got the Bronze Star for what I did on that. And think of it. At 97 years old right now, I'll be 98 in December 20th, I'm turning 98. I am the only one alive in all the units that I was in over there. Think, and here I am, 97 years old. I don't have an ache or a pain in my body.
That's beautiful.
How is that possible? How is that possible?
You did something right.
No, somebody is helping me up from above. I know it. I know it. This is too unreal. And I tell some of these stories on TikTok, so it's amazing. A little old farm boy from Hope, Minnesota, has gone through this here. Why did this happen to me? Why am I still here? Well, somebody wants me here to tell my story. And I think we'll have my book out this year yet.
Yeah, that's what you were saying the last time you were on. You guys still have a working title for that, or have you hammered out a...
Oh, I got a title for it, yes. The Luckiest Man in the World. Nobody else has got that title.
Nope.
No one.
I was having a thought when you were talking, when we were discussing about how much that D-Day relied on the misinformation that was done through intelligence.
Oh, man, did it ever.
And through the participation of the French resistance to put out false information to make it look more realistic. Years after the war, when a lot of this stuff was no longer top secret and a lot of this information was coming out, was there a moment you realized, oh, wait a minute, so much of that mission relied on that false information being believable to the Germans? Was there ever a moment after that information came out, like, wow, I never realized how fragile that operation was, that if they didn't believe in this ruse that, the intelligence was playing, that it would have went completely different?
When I was out of the service, I never gave much thought to anything I did, except that I'm alive. I got out of this alive. I didn't give any thought. I had to have somebody interview me before I even brought anything up. We did not talk about the war.
Sure, because everybody was there. There's nothing to talk about.
Everybody was there, yes. And you never talked about the war. I was never congratulated. Hey, thank you for your service. Until I told people about. No, this was before the landing at Slapton Sands, the Operation Tiger. I told them about that because we had kept that inside of us for 40 years. We weren't supposed to talk about under penalty of court-martial. We were banned, but it opened up. The British opened it up, And so I talked about it.
Sure.
But that's the first thing I talked about my service over there. And to think, I was in one of those ships that were targeted. They sank 2 of those landing ship tanks there, those LSTs, right alongside of me, and they shot the hell out of the top of ours so that we couldn't get any fresh air. And those diesel engines were pretty dirty at the time, and there was 400 of us laying on the floor vomiting. We were diesel gassed.
Yeah.
See, this is something you'd like to tell somebody. Man, it wasn't just fun, you know. We were worried too, and how we ever got back out of that there. And then that colonel come out and sworn us all to secrecy. Otherwise, we'd be court-martialed. That makes you think.
Oh, absolutely. So, just to get us a little back on track here, you said in order to talk about the travel homes and what happened to you, we had to go back to D-Day briefly. How do we make that leap from D-Day back to your travels home and the craziness that happened on that journey home?
Well, I was one of the first to get a 45-day leave after the Battle of the Bulge. I was in on the start of that because I worked at night, and that's when it started.
Sure.
At 2 o'clock in the morning on December 16th, that's when the Germans dropped parachutists. There was between 800 and 900 parachutists dropped. And I can only give you the position on the map. It was position on the map was 6. God, I can't remember the name of that town. I've been accused of making that up because they said that they'd never heard about anybody. This was a lieutenant colonel from the Vietnam War who's a historian, and he says, "Did you make this up?" Because I've never heard of anybody mentioning paratroopers. By golly, that really bugged me. But Ridgway, General Ridgway, the head of the 82nd Airborne, wrote a book. And in that book, he wrote about those 800 to 900 paratroopers that landed down there. So, man, it's just like I'm getting confirmation from above.
Yeah.
You understand, there's a lot of this stuff that's not confirmed, but I got confirmation on that, see? And I woke up Colonel Hill, and I woke up General Dro at that time, and they pulled an alert, and that alert saved quite a few of our men on the line. I alerted the first Division and the 29th Division. They were on the line. And then we alerted 1st Army. And here's a weird thing. They came in below Eupen by... God, I'm running out of gas.
No worries. I was just looking. Yeah, it looks like the book was called Soldiers, The Memoirs of Matthew B. Ridgway. It came out in 1956 on Harper Brothers, first edition, January 1st, 1956. So you had to wait almost 9 years to get any sort of confirmation for what you're telling people.
Yes. I was telling that story from my own experience, and people were thinking I was making it up.
Well, at least you got your vindication after all those years, and finally some hard truth came out.
More than that, I've got my life here. My God, think of it. No one else alive right now that I was even over there with. There must be something about my stories that ring true. You can't make up stuff. It's hard to remember lies.
Sure.
And if you do remember them, you have to remember exactly what it is.
Well, and more often than not, when people are telling the truth about a story, you can tell the truth is there based on the detail. A lot of times when people are making up things on the fly or lying, the details aren't really that crisp, so it's hard to track down. And and a lot of times when the real stories come out, they're not as glamorous. They're not as romanticized as the made-up ones. And so a lot of times, when someone's telling a story and it seems matter of fact and it seems less than, exciting or amazing, then it tends to be the truth because they're not trying to embellish it and make it more than it actually was.
The name of that place came back. Malmedy. The
Yep.
Malmedy Massacre. My God, yes. That's where that Piper, colonel or general, whatever, I think he was a colonel, leading those tanks. And they had the big ones. And those was the SS division that came through Malmedy. They had captured about 100 engineers or 90, something like that. And they were taken prisoners. So they lined them up in the ditch with their hands over their head. Snowing. It was snowing. And as the tanks drove by, those people lined up, giving themselves up. They shot them with those machine guns, 30 caliber machine guns. They call that the Malmedy Massacre. Then had terrific frost, and when we had troops go in there and pick up those dead, those guys were sprawled in every position like spiders. What a sad thing to see your buddies fighting for the same thing you are and giving their life up with their hands in the air. That's a hard thing to take.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously when you find them with their, in that position, that just goes to show that they weren't putting up a fight. It was just a waste. It was a massacre, as the name implied.
It was the Malmedy Massacre.
There was no even effort to acknowledge the Geneva Convention, and so it was a war crime. It was straight up war crime.
Yeah. But what was life to Hitler?
A means to an end.
Nothing. The only thing he was trying to do was get his way. He was the supreme. He was God already. He kicked God out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And so it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
You just got your 48-hour leave. And 46 hours?
After the Battle of the Bulge, I got a 45-day leave
45
to
days.
go back to the States. After 3 years over there, well, nearly 3 years. I think it was a month short there, but that's close enough to 3 years for me.
Sure.
But I had 127 points, and that's when I had the most of anybody there, so I got in on the 45 days. Now here's strange things happened to me. I got on a train there, and went down to France. No, Le Havre, France. That was a submarine station there. German submarines. They had Quonsets that they housed the things. I came in at 11 o'clock at night and was directed to this Quonset, and they said, take the first bed. I had the underwear on, so I stripped my outer clothes off and crawled in bed, shut the light off. Everybody was, oh, shut the goddamn light off, shut the light off. You know, so I got in bed, and I was exhausted. Man, I was just about to sleep. And something was moving on my chest like it was jumping up and down. I got up, turned the light on, and looked under my underwear. I was full of fleas.
Oh, jeez.
Wow! Oh, my God. And then people hollering, hey, shut the damn light off, shut the light. I said, where's the supply sergeant's tent? I said, get back in bed. He won't get up. He'll get up, I says. I dressed, went down to the supply sergeant's tent, and, of course, he was sleeping.
Sure.
They always sleep in their tent. They don't trust anybody to break in there, so they always sleep there. So I pounded on that screen door. He said, what the hell are you doing? Get out of here. Go what? I said, I need some flea powder. Get out of here. I'll get it for you in the morning. I said, you go back to sleep. I'm going to find the commanding officer of this place and see what he's got to say about, hey, I'll get up. I'll get you your flea powder. So I got the flea powder, and then after I powdered myself and my bed and everything, then these other guys say, hey, can we borrow that?
Nope.
Yeah. The other guys are hollering, shut the light off. So, by God, got some sleep.
So prior to this, you worked G3 at night. You were in the Battle of the Bulge. It's super cold. So you finally get a 45-day leave, and here's your first opportunity to get a night's sleep where you're not working, have a bed instead of a cot or a foxhole, depending on where you were previously sleeping, and you can't even enjoy your first night in a bed because of fleas.
Yeah. Think of it. For 6 months, we're going from town to town. Never had lice or fleas or anything. And here you come to some place that's operated by the Americans. They took over from the Germans there. They took over Le Havre. And they didn't take care of the flea problem. I couldn't have been the first one to have it.
Sure.
Yeah, that is kind of disgusting, you know, when you come there to an American place run by Americans and have that happen. It took a while, but then a Liberty, about 2 days, a Liberty ship came down, and by golly, I volunteered to be the mess sergeant on there. All I did was make ice cream and coffee. But before that happened, I'm there, and there's wounded from the Battle of the Bulge being put on that ship, and they're loading it up. And we haul two roads for sure back to England of wounded. This also, see, this is off of my 45 days. By 45 days start after I get to Fort Snelling in Minnesota.
Really? So it doesn't start when you leave your assigned post. It actually starts when your feet get on American soil?
It took me 51 days to get to Minnesota.
Wow.
51 days from the Battle of the Bulge.
See, like when it was all said and done, you're looking down the barrel of a 100-day leave.
I'm just enjoying life on that Liberty ship. Of course, a submarine or anything could pick me up and everything. Who gave a damn about a submarine at this time? Yep. You were going home. But and a strange thing happened when I got to Fort Snelling. I told you about having two cousins, and we went into war together in February 10th. We were put into federal service and sent down to Camp Claiborne. Mm-hmm. They stayed in Company F. My cousin Ole then went in on North Africa, and then went in on Sicily, and then went into Italy.
Wow.
And he got a leave from there.
So he was basically there for the whole Mediterranean campaign.
I got my leave from Belgium, and then came back across the Atlantic. In the morning, I was sitting by a pole waiting for him to call my name out. Ole came and he says, "Jake, is that you? Here we met at Fort Snelling 3 years after we were in the service and parted. Now, how in the world is that possible? How is that possible?"
Yeah, I mean, not only end up at the same place on the same day, but to essentially be, get leave or pointed out at the same exact time. And as you said, your boat ride home took 41 days. So for all that to come to fruition, 51 days, for all that to come to fruition, and then you land at the same camp roughly the same time. It's amazing.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's like I make this stuff up. But he got discharged the same day I did. And that was February 13th. April 13th. April 13th, 1945. We were the first 12 discharged before the war was over, overseas. That was a day after President Roosevelt died. He died on the 12th. I got discharged on the 13th.
What was it like to get back to the States after 3 years? I mean, you went in. The country was still in the middle of
It was unbelievable. Full rationing. Everything was rationed. You had to have a ration stamp to buy gasoline. You had a ration stamp for tires or anything.
Flour, of course, food. I actually have a ration stamp book here in the studio.
You saved. My mother saved lard, all of the fat, and I found out they use that to make glycerin for ammunition and stuff. I never knew they did that stuff, but yes. For I never got any recognition for my service because everybody that was in the service got out, and no one talked about their service because everybody was in different parts of the service, and it'd be like sitting down talking to yourself.
And I would imagine at a
Yeah,
certain point, you guys were just at the place where you were kind of over it. You want to move on with your lives. Why talk about something that you had to
and
live
it was
through for 3 years?
overkill for us.
Yeah, that'd be like us talking about COVID-19 for the next 10 years. No, we're over it. We want to move on.
Exactly. Yeah. You hit it right on the nose. It was talking about the service was overkill for us. We wanted to forget about that stuff. We wanted to be normal.
Now, you're from a small town. Before the war, when you left, I'm sure, you guys were just coming out of the Great Depression or still in it. Had your town
in it.
Had your town gained financially, or did it blow up at all? Was there any more manufacturing going on in your town, or did it look the same when you got home?
It shrank.
Really?
It really shrank. Yeah, and I'm not joking. Yes. We used to have 2 stores there. 2 stores, a bank, pool hall, a garage, a creamery. Creamery was the thing that bound the town together because all the farmers milked their own cows and brought the cream into the creamery. Here's an interesting little thing. In Minnesota, every little town had its own creamery, and farmers used to pick the cream. The only creamery left in Minnesota that still operates is from Hope, Minnesota. That's where I was raised. Hope, Hope, Minnesota. And it's the only creamery still operating.
Wow, that's some longevity, especially nowadays with things being shipped in from all over the world.
They ship most of their cream or butter to New York City. It's about the only #1 butter that's still made in this little town. It's 100 people. I don't think you even call them a town.
Yeah, and the fact that most of the the young men who were 16 to 19 were probably off overseas, and that made it a lot harder to farm and get the logistics done locally.
Absolutely. And they left the farm after they were in the service. See, I went to a trade school for 2 years, and I could fix anything. If anything was fixable, I could fix it.
So that's what you did when you came back from the war? You went to trade school?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you utilize the GI Bill for your first home and going to school, or did you just?
No, I never used it for anything. The only thing I got out of the GI Bill was helping me through trade school.
Yeah.
I got my wife and I got $60 a month.
Where'd you meet your wife at?
Hey, that's the most unusual thing in the world, how I met my wife.
Well, that seems pretty usual for you. Everything at this point, coming home across the seas,
Yeah, you got to read my book. Yeah, but I'll tell you anyway.
Sure.
This is part of my book. I bought an Argus C2 35mm camera with that $12 I got every 3 months. It took me two years to pay for that doggone thing because I had to have a couple dollars of my own.
Sure.
It cost, that camera cost over $35. People, if they had a camera at that time, it was a box camera. Oh man, I just fell in love with the 35 millimeter ones, and this is a 3.2 lens, you know, and a viewfinder, and a cowhide case. Man, I was a dog in town, I'll tell you.
Well, what people don't realize too is nowadays we're all just point and shoot. People don't understand what a aperture is, an f-stop time, what a light meter is, and back then photography was a true skill and art. You had to know how to use your light meter, set your f-stops, set your apertures, and all that stuff. Did you get into the development of film at all?
Oh, I did, yeah. I ordered film, rolls of film from Hollywood. You can get it cheaper there. It's black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I loaded my own canisters under the tarp, you know, or something, see?
Yeah, I took 4 years of black and white photography in high school. I think this was in the 90s. My record, I think, from taking the film out of the canister and loading it into the developer tank was about 30 seconds. I got pretty proficient with it.
See what I mean? Yeah. You get so anyway. When I got to North Ireland, I got to talking to a medical major there, Major Joseph Ridgway, and he had an 8 millimeter movie camera. That's a wind up, had a spring wind, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Jake, as long as you're in photography, he says, if you go on furlough any place, come and pick up my camera and take it along and take pictures of that. I said, sure. By golly, I got a furlough to Edinburgh, Scotland. I was in North Ireland. So you have to go by ship to get in England, and then it's a roundabout way. But I went to North Ireland, or Edinburgh, and God, that was a great thing. So I took a bunch of pictures up there for him on his movie camera. I took some with my one-shot camera. So I came back and gave him his camera back. He took and sent that roll of film to his wife. Well, a month went by, and I was on Sunday. I was walking around with the camera. I had just taken some pictures of some swans. We don't have swans in Minnesota. Never saw a swan. And here's a pair of swans, and they're so elegant, those things. So I took a picture of that with my camera. And here drives Major Ridgway up in his Jeep. And he says, I got a bone to pick with you, Jake.
Uh-oh.
I said, what kind of a bone have you got to pick with me? He says, the last time you used my camera and took pictures for me, he says, who are those girls? I said, what are you talking about, man? He says, when you went to Edinburgh, I sent that raw film to my wife, and she wants to know who those girls are you took picture of.
Whoops.
Oh, my God. Oh, I forgot about that. They had a convention up there, and I said, my God, you never see this many good-looking girls. So I took movies of that. He says, man, I said, you can't send that raw film to your wife, get it developed here, and then you can cut that out.
Never the wiser.
And I said, so I sat in his Jeep and handed him that Argus C2 camera of mine, and he took a picture of me in his Jeep. I didn't have a Jeep. I never was in a Jeep. Just to ride in one, going someplace. But I never had one and never sat behind the wheel before. So when I developed that up, I said, my God, that picture is great. I can't believe it. So the picture of the swans and the picture of me in that Jeep, I sent to my mother. And my dad saw that, and he put them in the photo news in Owatonna. Now, I didn't know the end of this until I got out of the war and met my wife. And by God, we got married while I was going to Dunwoody. And after Dunwoody, I had a service station in 1948, and she was pregnant with our first child. And I came home at noon to get something to eat, and I went in to wash up, and she had her wallet out. She was changing wallets. And on the top of that desk there was that picture from me in that Jeep, taken in North Ireland. When I was 19 years old. Hey, where did you get that? She says, I was a sophomore in high school. When that picture came out, I cut it out and put it in my wallet. You put it in your wallet? What you put it? She says, my girlfriend says, who is that guy? And my wife said, so help me God, this is the truth. She says, that's the guy I'm going to marry.
Wow. All those years later, she still had it.
All those years later, yeah. I'll tell you, our marriage, I would not be here today if it weren't for my wife. We had a place. We owned our own. I was 67 years old when she said, Father, when she called me Father, anything she wanted, she got. Father, I found my dream house. The dream house was this house that we're living in, that I'm living in right now. My two sons and I each have got their own place here. They're neighbors to me here, upstairs and right alongside of me. And we raised their children. Their children are grown up now. But I had a stroke here, and if it weren't for my oldest son coming and getting me in the morning when my alarm went off and I couldn't answer it, he heard it and he got down and got me to the hospital. I have a little atrophy in the palm of my left hand, and I kind of drag my left foot, but it doesn't seem to have affected my mentality any.
No,
well,
not
maybe
at all.
it has, but that was 27 years ago.
Wow.
17 years ago, I was back in Minnesota for 7 weeks, and that was the last Fifth Corps reunion in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I drove up to that. I was up in Nisswa, Minnesota. I drove all over there and came back after 7 weeks, flew back by myself, and I was going through the mail at 8 o'clock at night, and my oldest son, Kurt, came down, and he just walked to the refrigerator and looked in there. Hell, there was nothing in there because I'd been gone for 7 weeks. So he started to go upstairs, and I says, Kurt, wait a minute. He says, you got a problem? I says, yeah, I'm getting dizzy. He says, I'll be right down. He goes up and got his keys, took me down to Kaiser in Walnut Creek. That's about 15 miles away from here. And doctors started checking me, and I started feeling pretty good again.
Yeah.
And 10 o'clock at night, my whole family was down there. And my daughter said, Dad, they want to keep you overnight. And I said, what was the reason for that? Oh, I think they want to put you on a treadmill in the morning.
Stress test.
They hooked me up and put me to sleep. I went to sleep. I woke up the next day 25 miles away in another hospital. I had cardiac arrest and sent up to that other hospital, and they put 6 stents in me and said, you have to have 5 more.
Wow.
So I was shipped over to San Francisco to Kaiser and had 5 more stents. I got 11 stents in my chest. 11. People, I've been called a liar by the doctors.
My father has 7, so I can believe you're 11.
It's crazy. But I've got the best circulation of anybody in the world. Maybe that's the reason I don't have aches or pains.
Yeah, you're borderlining on an artificial heart at this point. You got 11 of them in there. Fun fact about Kaiser Permanente.
Cardiac arrest.
Yep.
I came through it.
And I'm so happy you did. And just for a fun fact for our listeners about Kaiser Permanente, the hospital, as you know, back during the war, Kaiser was actually a ship and tank building company. And,
absolutely,
and
yes.
They had so many employees working so many hours a day that they had to basically have an on-site hospital. And so they got...
God, I'm mentioning that.
What's
because I owe my life. I'm here because of Kaiser. Yes.
So they went from building tanks and Liberty ships, and then after the war, they just focused on medicine, and that's where Kaiser Permanente came from. It started off as a on-site hospital for a shipbuilding company, and now they're one of the best hospitals in the country.
They are top-notch. They rate number 5 in everything. All different things. Well, thank you for reminding people about that.
And thank you for all that you do, and thank you for coming on the show. And you said roughly around December, maybe January, your book's coming out, The Luckiest Man Alive, correct?
Yeah.
And obviously when that comes out, we will remind our audience.
Luckiest man in the world, Don.
Luckiest man in the world.
Luckiest man in the world.
Well, I will be one of the first ones to buy a copy, and then I will send it out to you so you can autograph it for me. Jake Larson, thank you so much. You guys can find him on TikTok at Storytimes with Papa Jake. And simply just Google Jake Larson. And, you know, in interview 1 and interview 2, I think you mentioned the fact that when you went back over to Normandy, you were doing all these press junkets with all these different news stations. Just Google it, people. It's there. As soon as you Google Jake Larson, all these news videos that he was talking about when he was back over in Normandy for the anniversary, they'll all come up. So it's all out there. And as always, head over to WTSPWorldWar2.com, find the page for this episode, and we will include some photographs that Jake sent to me last time, as well as links to all the pertinent information. Jakes, thank you so much for spending so many hours with us and sharing your story, not only with TikTok, but with my audience and the rest of the world. And I hope everything continues to go well with you, and things just keep on going on, sir.
Well, it's keeping on going on, and I think somebody upstairs wants this told. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
And I greatly appreciate it, and I'm going to do my part to get that message out, sir.
Thanks, buddy. And it's always a pleasure talking to you. Always.
It's always a pleasure talking to you. And a little secret, keep an eye on your mailbox, sir. I sent you something about a few days back. Actually, I ordered you something a few days back. It'll probably take another few days before it's made up and sent out. But I sent you a little something to thank you for coming on the show.
I think you'd do better Pony Express.
Well, it's custom made. It's made to order, so I had to have it made, and once it gets to a certain date, it'll get printed up and sent out your way.
It's not necessary to send me something. I do this, and so many people appreciate hearing from me. How could I not enjoy the letters I get to thank you for your service? I get tears talking. Some of these people have lost their dad, their grandpa, their uncle. We all served in the same war. And if it weren't for those guys, I wouldn't be able to be here. They paved the way for me. Thank you all. Thank you.
This has been a Digital 410 production.